All right, I'm going to take my watch off because I want to keep an eye on the time this morning, but here we are again, as we were last year, with this excellent opportunity to present to you some concerns and some safety tips about traveling and planning a safe trip along the way, whether you're selling or buying or providing transportation. It's of utmost importance that you consider safety first. And so you'll hear me sounding like a broken record up here. Look before you book. That's going to be the moniker of this main presentation. I want to provide to you a little bit about who we are. We're here today to promote the idea of safety and how safety must come first. The theme of the faith-based conference here is going on faith. We like to add to that, not only going on faith, but going informed. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what I mean by that as we go along. All right, so for today's topic, we're going to talk about what's at stake, who we are, and what, of course, you need to do before you book your trips, and that is look before you book. We'll show you ways in which to choose safe carrier operations, okay? We start out by talking about the case for safety, and it almost speaks for itself. I don't need to go over the gory details with you, but what I will share with you is this. A week ago, there was a tragic accident right here in northwest Indiana. You may have heard about that or read about that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Every time that you plan a trip, you must consider carefully not only the carrier you're about to hire, or if you're a carrier providing services, you need to look at your own information and records. And of course, plan for the safest carrier that you can find available to you. I realize a lot of planning goes into what you do when you plan these events and these destinations. Put a percentage of that, if you will, into planning safety. And the reason why speaks for itself. Your destinations can include things like hotels, the activities, you're planning trips for your group. What about the safety considerations you give to the carrier? Things like operating authority. What is their safety rating? Do they have legally sufficient insurance or insurance at all? I think I'm in touch. And so what I want to do here is present for you a video of when things went terribly wrong and the consideration of going on faith was held above going informed.
Mr. Goodman was drowsy, continued driving the vehicle, fell asleep, woke up immediately prior to the vehicle having impact with a tree. The vehicle did have impact with a tree, then went across the lane, another impact with another tree. And that reckless manner in which he operated the vehicle was what caused the death of the young man here.
New tonight, we're hearing from the prosecutor in the case of the church bus driver involved in the crash earlier this week, the crash that killed a 6-year-old boy.
Charles Goodman is facing charges of reckless homicide and driving with a suspended license after that crash earlier this week on Interstate 70.
We've also just learned one adult and one child have been released from the hospital. One person remains in the hospital in good condition. IT-Mate's Bennett Haberly has been looking into all of this, into the investigation and the laws that govern these types of vehicles. So give us an idea of what you've uncovered.
Well, Eric, what we found is that the regulations governing these church buses are a bit loose, but they do require one thing, an active driver's license. Police say Charles Goodman did not have that when he crashed. Court records show he admitted to falling asleep behind the wheel. Another passenger said he felt Goodman was a bit off and wasn't focused. The wreckage of this church bus tells only part of the story. Court records reveal even more. How the driver, Charles Goodman, told state police he fell asleep at the wheel and woke up too close to avoid hitting a tree. The crash along Interstate 70 killed a 6-year-old boy and injured 10 of the 12 church members on board.
It's the mighty arm of God that's holding us up.
Bishop Lois Hill of the St. Jude Deliverance Church said Wednesday that faith was holding her congregants together. She said the church bus bound for a convention in Ohio was registered to her, and that she was unaware Goodman had a suspended license. Indiana State Police say the bus should have been registered with the U.S. Department of Transportation. It was not.
It's all registered. It's legal. That's why I wanted my paperwork. It's all legal.
We wouldn't want to see a tragedy like this to ever happen again.
Sergeant Ty Utterback is a commercial vehicle inspector with Indiana State Police. While he didn't personally examine the church bus, inspectors from his office did. He says because the bus was destined to travel out of state, it needed to be registered. But ITmate found the laws governing church buses include several exemptions. For example, operators don't have to be 21 years old. They're not required to hold on to maintenance records or disclose the backgrounds or driving records of the drivers. But there are some key requirements, among them, a valid driver's license.
This is the tough way. This is not the best way to find out whether or not you're in compliance or not. You don't want to find out this way.
Utterback says this crash should be a wake-up call for other churches and organizations to comply.
The right people in the right place doing the right questions might have kept this guy from driving.
As we mentioned, 2 of the other patients have been released. 1 remains in good condition. Bishop Hill told investigators that Goodman was a friend of hers who used to belong to the church. She did not respond to an email I sent her this afternoon asking for comments after Goodman's arrest.
And so much depends on one person in these circumstances. You rely on that driver.
And that was the case essentially here, that the people, at least Bishop.
All right, so you get the idea, and this is not to suggest to you that this will necessarily happen even if you're going just on faith. But when you're going informed, you can have the confidence to know that you've done everything you can to ensure that the trip is safe, to know who your drivers are, and of course to check into the records of the vehicle maintenance. Now in this particular instance, this was a vehicle that was owned and operated by the church, and there are fewer regulatory requirements for obvious reasons with nonprofit organizations. Because not all of the audience might be in the situation where you're providing transportation from your own vehicles in your faith-based organization, I want to reserve the opportunity to share with you information about that if you are in that capacity and you have questions about it. Please visit our booth, which is right to the rear of the middle section there. You'll find both myself and my colleague Brian Ronk, who is in the audience here today. We'll be back there. We're going to come to the small market, try and answer your questions. The main part of my presentation today has to do with generally when you search for a carrier that's in the commercial industry providing transportation. Who are we and what do we do and why is that important? How is what we do different from going out and looking at the blogs on the subject? Well, I'm going to fly through a lot of what we do because rather than go into the details and try and expect you to memorize a lot of things that you don't need to, it's all in print, it's all available on our website, and it's all available through our explanations and conversations with you during the course of this conference. Basically, we're a federal regulatory agency under the United States Department of Transportation. Our mission is to prevent crashes, injuries, and fatalities. We're all about the safety. We have the regulatory authority of all types of commerce in transport across our nation's freeways and highways, and in particular, our most precious cargo, human beings, passengers, okay? All right. So I'm going to fly through this as promised. We have the ability to giveth and taketh away, I guess you'd say, in terms of raising the bar to entry into the interstate transportation field. And we do that through safety compliance requirements and the application process. Then we issue regulations ensuring that companies and carriers maintain compliance with those regulations. And we hold them accountable if they're unwilling or unable to continue to maintain safe vehicles, safe drivers, and record keeping. This is done in a couple of ways. We visit the carrier operation. We ascribe a safety rating. It's not a score, but a safety rating, and it's based on data that are gathered, okay? So we're in the carrier operation looking at the vehicles, crawling under them, looking inside them, looking at the records of this carrier, the regulatory requirements of those record-keeping requirements, I should say. The drivers. Okay, things are assigned a satisfactory, conditional, or unsatisfactory rating. Unsat prohibits a carrier from operating until that condition has been taken care of. All right, so we're located primarily in headquarters in Washington, D.C., but we have divisional offices all throughout the states. Okay, so the inspections can be held roadside. They can be held, as I showed you previously, at the carrier operation. We can place a vehicle in its inspection out of service, or a driver. We categorize the violations at roadside through the behavior analysis and safety improvement categories, the acronym being BASIC. In this example, you'll see that the vehicle maintenance has an orange triangle. That means that the carrier is still allowed to operate, but their record-keeping requirements and history of inspections illustrate that they have risen to an intervention level. An intervention can be something as small as sending a letter out to that carrier to alert them to this and the public. This is information that's available to you as the public and exemplifies what you would see when you came to our website to help alert you to potential problem issues of carriers you're considering hiring. So what you need to do is look before you book. You can do that either online or through a mobile app. You can pick up information. We have these cards that give you the website, and the app is free for your mobile device. You can literally check carriers on the fly, or you can go to our website and do it from your office. We'll tell you more about that if you come by. It basically, here's the web page that you would visit if you went to our main web page, hit the consumer section of our web page, and then you would drill down, and there are various and sundry choices that you can make to determine carrier safety and looking up carrier records. An example again of the basics, and just to inform you that this again does not illustrate the carrier is out of service or out of operation, but that a category in the basics, one or more of those may have risen to an intervention threshold. You can even go online just further above the basics rating on our webpage, and you'll see examples of the carrier's information, what their rating is, their insurance right up to date. You can drill down further into the insurance and see exactly how much insurance they have on file. And this is to the day, okay? It doesn't get any more recent than that. The Safer Bus app works the same way and provides a lot of the same resources. And you would, once you opened it, search for your carrier. Be aware that a lot of carrier names are very similar. The best way to do it is through a DOT number. There is no carrier that should be ashamed or afraid of giving you their DOT number. And if they are, you want to look carefully at what the reason might be and ask them about that, because that would be the safest way to ensure that you're looking at the very carrier you're considering hiring. Again, some of these carrier names are very similar. An illustration of what the basics would look like on the web, or I mean rather on the mobile app. And finally, as I'm running short on time here, I want to thank you and encourage you to look before you book every trip, every time, and be sure to ask us any questions you might have about the best way to ensure that you're in compliance and that the carriers you're considering hiring are in compliance. Thank you so much for your time and help. I'm going to show you a short little movie that summarizes what I've gone over.
When you're planning a bus trip, you choose a great destination and exciting activities. Your passengers look forward to a relaxing ride and an affordable travel option. But whether you're a travel planner or chartering a bus for sports activities, whether you're traveling by bus for a field trip or booking for a special group activity, planning your own road trip or a weekend trip, passenger safety is the most important part of any trip. Luckily, it's fast and easy to learn more about bus safety online at FMCSA's Look Before You Book page. You'll find safety tips and information, convenient apps to research bus operators, and information on reporting safety violations. Online, you can search by bus company name or DOT number. And the Safer Bus mobile app lets you take this research on the road. Both tools let you check for legal bus operation and safety history, like company records, drug testing, and vehicle maintenance. Think safety first. Take a minute and look before you book your next trip. Have a great time and stay safe out there.